That's a hard question because I know that the true character of Captain America is that of one who's trying to do the right thing, and I know that he would not spawn off and do the wrong thing. That's just his moral compass. That's his values, and a lot of the team that was with him shared that same value.
Yeah.
But indirectly, any involvement that they have with somebody else who, let's say, is against the Accord, or whatever bad guy of the week may be coming, those bad guys really don't care about anything. And even though our characters try to do the right thing, they're going to get caught up in destruction. People are going to get
Yeah.
hurt. People are going to die. It's going to happen in the comic series. It's something that comics never really dive into. The reality, if it were a reality, you watch a whole building, those people didn't have time to get out. They're all toast. They never bring it forth because, you would make comics so more morbid.
Yeah.
They just kind of focus with the damage and destruction. They just kind of leave it generic. And they say, yeah, and in Superman, they said people lost their lives. They did identify that in that movie. They didn't do that in Marvel, except for when Scarlet Witch threw
Yeah. The
crossbones
explosion.
in
Yeah.
his explosion, and it was no intention of hers to do anything. She was just getting him out of the way, and it just happened.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where you get into that moral question. Should you be held accountable? Sure. I think that they should be held accountable. Do they need to be on the whim of a government or something along those lines? That's kind of where they're throwing it out there. They're using that. All these people were happy to have them, save the day, but when it comes to the end, they're all pissed now about, you blew up our buildings or you killed all these people, but they weren't worried about that at that moment because they were worried about
Yeah.
saving the Earth, saving the planet. So it's hard for me to kind of, I would stick with what's right, which is the Captain America side, but I do think in this case accountability would be something that, you know, it's going to happen, it's going to be there. How you address that, that's kind of where I have to, I'm not sure. It's it's one of those difficult questions, and that's what Civil War was about. Asking those
And that's why,
questions.
and that's why I did like the one thing I was stressed about the Captain America Civil War movie and the Batman versus Superman movie, because when you think about it, both movies did stress the fact that people died. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's
People
collateral
died, and
damage. There's
yeah,
buildings. There's
yeah,
people. Looking at the character who lost. The guy who worked for Bruce Wayne. He ended up having his legs. Ended up losing his legs.
yeah.
And his
And
anger towards Superman for the fight, but it wasn't Superman's direct fault. It was the actions of Zod and being careless, and Superman trying to stop him at all costs.
yes,
But again, he had no. I mean, he was getting pounded pretty good because once Zod figured out the game, it was on,
yes.
and he was like he had just been that way for his whole entire life.
You think Zod is and I think this kind of goes back to what you were saying about Captain America and the Red Skull, where you have Superman and Zod. They are of the same.
Mhm.
They're cut from the same mold, but they're different ideologies. Is what
Well,
makes them.
as we saw Zod in the movie, he was the planet's protector. That was his job. And in the Kryptonian world, as they defined in the movie, you had the Codex, which was basically what you're going to be, what's your future, whether you're a scientist, a warrior, an adventurer, whatever the case was. That's what that whole ship was about. It was seeding the galaxy with life. Trying to get out there and expanding the Kryptonian world. And so Zod's driven was to protect his race at all costs. And that's what he was doing. And Superman really never, he was born Kryptonian. He had never had exposure to Kryptonian life. And all he knew was what he had learned on Earth. Right is right. Protect life, value life. They're tragic characters in each category. Zod was doing what he thought he needed to do, how he was built, how he was designed.
Yes.
And, he said, the only way I'm going to keep this alive is basically take this planet from you guys at no matter what the cost, zap all the life on this planet, bring it back as new Krypton. and that's what he was doing. And then at the end of the movie, he said, "I have no more purpose. All my people are gone. There was no hope for him." So that's when he just went bonkers, and basically just decided to take it all out on Kyle. So
I want
you
to
know,
know, do you think Marvel characters have more depth to them? We did discuss this last night, but just wanted to go ahead and reiterate that conversation while we're talking about it now.
Marvel tends to take groups and build them up and grow them, but you don't get. You have to read a lot to get into the Marvel characters and how they are. With the DC characters, they focused more on the individuals first, giving you their backgrounds, giving you what drives them, giving them what makes them who they are and what they are, and then brings them into a group or a team setting in most cases. Again, Justice League is a prime example. We've seen Superman, we've seen Batman, we've seen them together. We get introduced to Wonder Woman, we've seen the Flash hinted at, we've seen Aquaman hinted at. Then we have, where we jump into Marvel Comics, we're already jumping into teams. We're jumping into the X-Men, we're jumping into the Inhumans, we're jumping into all these already established groups, and then eventually you get a side series like Wolverine or Younger X-Men or side stories, but most of the time you see them are all in a team setting. So I think you see a lot more in-depth characters when you get in the DC world individually, but Marvel has a more team perspective, except for a few handfuls, like Captain America is a prime example, Iron Man's a prime example, Spider-Man's one of those prime examples where you have individuals that have been series for a very long time and then brought into unique teams or unique stories.
Yeah.
But for the most part, DC, I think, does a better driven character storyline. They bring you more into the character's life, more into the character's thought processes, and then eventually throw them all together. Because I think that's what makes it interesting. Because you see all these characters, you see Batman, he's worked solo, pretty much for all the comic series, and for the movie series, he's always been solo. He's never had a partner.
Yeah.
He's worked with other characters, but in essence, he's always been a solo character. And now
he's had a few. He's had a few partners too. I mean, he's been with Jason Todd, something Drake, Red Robin.
Yeah, I mean, in a comic series, yes. But as for, say, exposure to the movie series, what most people have seen, most people have adapted themselves to, because again, you got a younger generation that are just now seeing Batman for the first time, and so all they know is what they've seen on the big screen or DVD rentals or whatever. So you just saw an introduction to Robin at the end of the Batman Chris Nolan series. Yeah. Even though they didn't say his name was Robin per se, in this case Robin was being more identified as Batman's replacement, not just Robin. So for the most part, he's been a solo character. And now you have this new version of Batman, Ben Affleck, in here, who has, in the short time we've seen him, he had Robin, I guess, at one time, and something tragic happened to him, which I think it was actually Jason Todd. I think was the character that they identified was killed. So he's a driven character. He had a partner. He tried it. Didn't work out. Unfortunately, his actions related to his death. So we see, you got a personal vendetta in there. He feels he can't keep a partner, keep him alive, and now he's been solo for this, for a while at this point. And then you bring in all these other characters. You get the introduction of Wonder Woman. Yeah, so she's now kind of been brought into it. Now he's aware that there are other superpowered individuals, not just Superman. You got Wonder Woman. And then he discovers all the information about all the other superhumans or metahumans that you have, such as the Flash and Cyborg.
And then you got Aquaman
and Cyborg. Too. So now he's like, wow, there's more to it than just me. And that's one of the things that's always been interesting is, we have our core Justice League, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Ironically, that's who they started out with. And it's Batman versus Superman, the beginning. Literally, it's the beginning of the Justice League. And seeing the trailer for the Justice League movie coming out next year, it makes me very excited to see, Batman stepping up, like he has been in most of the animated series. He's been one of the, core leaders of the Justice League.
Yes.
He had to learn to work with others. He's had to learn to develop with all these characters. So that's kind of an interesting thing to see that leadership quality start stepping in and bringing into these teams.
Okay, when it comes down to it, if you could, who do you think would win in a decent fight? Well, I ain't gonna say a decent fight because no fights are decent, but who would you say would win? The Justice League, the JLA, or the Avengers?
JLA versus the Avengers?
Yes.
Ooh. Man, that's a toughie. Unfortunately, I think Justice League would probably do a lot more damage simply because of the Superman factor.
Do you think because the Avengers has the Hulk in it, the Avengers has Thor, that would be because Thor and Thor can stand up to the Hulk for a while, and
you can. Asgardians in the series that they discussed them are not necessarily super powered beings, but they are denser and stronger. They can take a good beating, but a lot of their ability comes as he said, what is magic but more advanced technology.
Yes,
as he said in there, and they use a lot more technology that to us appears as magic. So yes, Thor is going to be a good player in there. He's going to take a good whomping. I think Superman will eventually wear him down, if not kill him in a raw fight. We talked about the Hulk. My understanding and envisionment of the Hulk has always been the madder he gets, the more stronger he gets, the bigger he gets. I saw the first Hulk movie out there. I was really thrilled. The story was kind of weak to me, because they kind of messed it up. But when the Hulk got mad, he noticed he got bigger.
Yeah, he did
stronger,
get bigger.
And he's whooping out, M1A Abrams, 18-ton tanks, just slinging them around like they're toys. And he got madder and madder and madder, and the bigger he became. To where he was getting monstrous, and the rage of the Hulk is what drives him. It's supposed to be humanity's next step in evolution, is what Bruce Banner was looking for, trying to cure humanity of disease and stuff, and he ended up tapping into the core of humanity of this angry monster. And so, sure, I think with Superman and the Hulk going back and forth together, it would be a monstrous fight. It'd be just like him fighting Doomsday.
Yeah, that's another question I was going to ask. So we did touch on this: Doomsday versus the Hulk.
Doomsday would eventually kill him. Just no doubt. I mean, the Hulk will probably get him once, but that's it. The theory behind Doomsday was he was a weapon system built for survivability. Once he's beaten, he'll never be beaten the same way twice. It may take him a way to come back from the goop that he gets pounded into from the Hulk. When he comes back, the Hulk will not be able to beat him, and he will defeat the Hulk. I've read a lot in the Doomsday series, because when episode or issue 75 came out, The Death of Superman, that was like, what? It just blew me away that they actually decided to kill Superman. I mean, just shocking. But if you go and read the comic series prior to that, it gets really more in depth. You don't realize how much of a storyline there was to that.
Yeah.
And if you read comics and the Superman comics, and you can find find issues of that, or at least digital copies online, go back about a year, and they hinted to Doomsday many about a year in advance before the character actually showed up as Doomsday. You learn a lot. You learn about Lex Luthor. You learn a lot about your teams, and how Doomsday was present around, but just no one ever realized and put two and two together until it finally came down to, the entire Justice League got smoked. Most of your superpowered teams in that time frame were smoked. Brewster Gold, Mr. Technological guy, he got smoked. I mean, there were heroes dropping like flies because nothing could match Doomsday.
Yeah.
So Superman finally got personally involved when everybody else failed. But reading that storyline, that story arc is excellent, and I highly recommend anybody who is interested in the Doomsday character. What you saw in the movie, don't stick with that. read the comics and realize how big of a powerhouse Doomsday actually was.
I did like the one in the movie. I mean, he was different and he had a different origin story, but I liked him because
Well, he still evolved in the story in the show.
Yeah.
In the movie, he did evolve each time he was kind of beaten per se. You watched the bone structures, you watched him change, you watched his powers develop as he was fighting. So yes, they had that ability in there. How they got rid of him was slightly different because of the what I'm used to is the comic book series, not the movie series. So
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of original. I never really thought about that before. So I did think that was an interesting moment. And again, we were talking about the moral compass of characters and Superman in this case. So, that was a nice touch to add into that series with the Superman Doomsday mixed up in there because of what happened in the comics very similarly happened into the movie with some changes.
Yeah.
So, and that gave you that again, we're talking about moral compass of characters. Superman could have easily just flown away and said, screw it, I'm out of here. I don't need this crap. I can go somewhere else. But what he did in the movie, not to ruin the movie for those who haven't seen it, was heroic and epic.
Yes. And it definitely was impactful. It did have a very impactful.
Exactly. You're like, what? And it's like, okay, but that describes the character. That's what Superman would do. He would do anything for humanity, no matter what the price, if it benefited humanity at that point.
So. I need to know because Doomsday is like one of the characters, like the powerhouse characters that if any, like the world can't beat them.
No, Marvel. Most of the DC universe super teams and individuals went against Doomsday and they lost. And in the comic series, a lot of them died.
So in Marvel, I think Marvel equivalent might be the Hulk, but do they actually have a villain? Like one super villain?
They have gone. Well, the closest one would be
because I know there was the World War Hulk, and Hulk decimated everybody.
Well, Hulk World series.
The one when he came back to Earth
from the Gladiator games.
Yes, he decimated everybody.
The Hulk has the power. He has the ability. He has the regenerate. As long as he's the Hulk. But as the Hulk, we know that he does not have cognitive powers.
Mm-hmm.
He is very simplistic. He's a child when you would think of the Hulk. And we talked about this last night. She-Hulk, who was better, She-Hulk or the Hulk?
Yes. Yeah.
She-Hulk has the abilities of the Hulk, but she has full faculties. She knows who she is, what she's doing, how she's doing it. She has the strength, but she doesn't have the raw super rage power that the Hulk does. I mean, I think the Hulk would actually end up killing her if they went head on. Even though she's smarter, I think in just pure power, the Hulk would end up just killing her in raw power.
I think even in that issue of the World War Hulk, which I think was actually a fantastic story arc. I really enjoyed it. But I think even in that issue, she tried to fight him. And, by this time, he was like God mode, so nobody could touch him.
Yeah, she can fight. She's been on many of the teams. She's been on the Justice League. Oh, excuse me, not Justice League, excuse me. She's been on the Avengers, East Coast Avengers. She's bounced around a lot on many teams individually on herself.
Yeah, I think she's even been in the Fantastic Four at one point.
Yeah, she's got the skills, but I think just in raw, brutal power, the Hulk would just decimate her over time. Much like fighting, Thor. Eventually he's going to one of the two are going to wear out. But
yes,
again, the meaner, like if you remember in the Avengers movie, when the Hulk flipped out on the helicarrier.
Yes.
And he was so mad. He was trying to pick up Thor's hammer, and he was almost picking it up just by raw power, even though he couldn't.
Yes.
He was getting it off the ground, and it was denting the floors of the thing because he was so mad.
Mm-hmm.
And he was still growing. He wasn't even close to, anywhere to maximum potential.
Which I would have liked for them, admittedly, in that movie to have a bigger fight. I would have loved a bigger, like the whole in Avengers: Age of Ultron. We had the actual fight between Tony Stark and the Hulk.
Yeah, with the Hulkbuster armor.
Yeah, that literally is the best representation of the Hulk.
And that showed him in pure rage. I mean, Stark was, trying everything, and I mean, he was getting his butt handed to him. I mean, he was just actually, rampaging like crazy, and eventually he finally got him. But I still kind of question that.
I think it's possible because it was like he got him off guard.
Yeah, he
and
did sneak up on him pretty good there.
yeah, okay.
And we
That
have
was
seen,
hilarious.
the Hulk, later in the comic series, Bruce Banner, through training and other stuff, was able to kind of control the Hulk more when he is in that form.
Yes.
And that's kind of what I liked at the end of the Avengers when he's standing there and they're talking. He goes, "Well, let's get to work." And you see the big whale creature coming at him, and
Yeah.
he morphs into the Hulk on his own and
Yeah.
does his dirty work. And he's a little more cognizant than he was of a pure raging animal.
Yeah.
So he eventually does in the comic series, get to be a little more, still not, literally talking like us, but he grows up mentally and is able to control the hide portion of the Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah.
So it gives a little bit interesting character, and I think at one time they end up splitting too, where the
Yeah.
Hulk becomes a pure raw monster on its own, and then Bruce Banner is on his own, but he still turns into the Hulk, but he's like a pink Hulk. He doesn't change into the big raging green machine. So,
One thing I do think that DC, I do quite find out about DC that I do like, but I kind of think is a bit over the top is how they hearken to kid superheroes. Like, I think they're more prominent with that, like with the Teen Titans and the Young Justice.
yeah, the younger series was trying to bring into the Justice League and bring them in there. Teen Titans, my kids watch them, I watch them, but there's been two versions of the Teen Titans series. There's one more the humorous haha animated series, which is on right now, and then you had
Teen
the more
Titans Go.
serious
Yeah.
version where it had Slade as a main character in there, and the story writing was a little more wasn't
darker.
as, I don't say kid friendly, but it wasn't like little teeny bopper kids.
Yeah.
It had more of a story.
I really enjoyed it.
I like
really
that series a lot. I like the humorous one. I think it's funny. I mean, I can dig with that. I can sit there and watch Teen Titans all night long. But I like the more serious version too.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend. I think one of the bad things about them doing that, I don't mind Teen Titans Go. I think it is hilarious. But I think what they did was they shouldn't have replaced. They replaced a great series for kid friendliness.
Yes,
if they would have paralleled them together, it'd have been.
They did actually. The same people who voice them and animate them do the same series.
I mean, actually play the same, like two different series at the same time.
Yeah, if they had done that way, they've done that with several of the other X-Men series too.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch, I don't think it's on anymore, but there is a more kidder-friendly version of the Avengers.
I think I know what you're talking about. Is the chibi version where they look like a bunch of little kids?
Yeah, there's a little kid version of it, and there's another one that's
Avengers. It's like three Avengers series.
Yeah,
I know. I watched
a really
the
nice,
Avengers
cool one that's more like not necessarily adult oriented, but it's more serious. Like you would buy a DVD or CD and watch it. Then they have the little kiddie one, and there's kind of a one that's in the middle where they just kind of have a few characters, and then they just kind of play a story of the day or bad guy of the day, and they do introduce a few things. I've seen Mordock on a couple of the episodes. I've seen Namor show up here and there.
I think you're talking about Avengers Assemble. No, Avengers Assemble was one of them, but I think I know what you're talking about. I just can't remember the name. But I thought Avengers Assemble was pretty good. The only thing I didn't like about that was the good guys always kind of won. Yeah. I would have liked to seen the bad guy kind of win here, and over the overall story, the good guys win, but let it actually be a little bit fair towards the bad guys too.
Well, we as a society prefer that the good guys and the white hats win every time. Yeah, that's just how we are. We always expect the good guys to win, but I would like to see where you don't always win.
Yeah,
you might.
The bad guys win sometimes.
You might.
The bad guys.
Superman ain't gonna always bail your butt out.
Yeah.
Batman may not always be there. I've seen in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I have seen that happen in the animated series, where he doesn't always, is kind of a tragic character sometimes because he's trying, but he's got so much going on in his own personal life. He's got, he's one of those characters that, as we saw in the movies and even the sort of in the reboots, which I don't like the latter reboots. Those were kind of sucky, but in the original 3 reboot, we saw, Parker's trying to deal with school. He's trying to deal with home. He's trying to deal with, I've got these new powers. How am I going to do things? Trying to keep a job, looking at a girlfriend, trying to be the human with superpowers.
Yeah.
And it's overwhelming. He doesn't know what to do. He's a lost character. He's trying to figure out where his place is in the world. I can't, knowingly, I can't have somebody who knows who I am because it puts him in danger. Da-da-da, we see that happen. All these things happen to him. He's a human character. He's not Martian Manhunter who just shows up, or Batman through tragedy, or all these other characters, Wolverine through experimentation. He's just a plain Jane guy. And sometimes I can relate with Spider-Man a lot, and in fact, a lot of people can relate with Spider-Man because they have so many things going on, yet they're trying to be that superhero. Whether it's a kid, a spouse, a brother, a sister.
He most likely is the most relatable character.
Yeah, he is, for all intents and purposes, probably the most human character there, who is trying to deal with life and do something big, but everything comes in there, and that's what makes Spider-Man, to me, more just approachable as a person. He didn't ask for it. He wasn't trying to do anything. It just happened. Now you're given, with great power comes great responsibility. I mean, that stuck through that whole movie, and it rings bell true in whatever you do. Great power comes great responsibility. So I think he is the most human, relatable character of the bunch.
Yes. Out of pretty much both.
Exactly. Out of both worlds. We saw, Captain America, I can kind of throw in that ball game a little bit because he was that guy who was trying to do something. He was trying to go fight for his country. He was trying to do the right thing, and they just kept throwing him under the curve. You're just not good enough. You're not, you're not the man that we need. We need this guy, this model. One of the things was the picture on the wall that you stood and put your face in to show you in uniform.
Yes.
That's the guy. We want that 6 foot tall, 200-pound guy who's all muscle, who will go out there and take on these Nazis. And yet he's a 100-pound weakling who's 5'2". But the character's heart, what drove him is what really stood out to me in the Captain America series. It still sticks out every time I see the movie. The whole beginning of it, even when the scientist is killed, he still tells him, stick true to yourself. Don't give up, stay true to yourself. And then he died. And that stayed with that character, and it stayed with the character in all the Avenger movies, all the single solo movies. It's what makes Captain America, Captain America.
I think that's pretty. I do think that is actually pretty good. We're gonna get bit. We're gonna throw out some questions.
Time here today.
Yeah, we're gonna throw out a quick couple of questions. If you could pick 3 superheroes from Marvel, who would it be?
Can we do superheroes and supervillains?
I'm gonna get to the supervillain one next. Just 3. Right.
Woo! Marvel, Iron Man, Captain America, Doctor Strange.
I would have to say, I think I told you it was Captain America, Spider-Man, and Wolverine. Okay, what about villains?
Villains. Doctor Doom, Red Skull, and I'm going to throw in there, well, actually kind of a tie. It's either Galactus or Apocalypse.
Okay. Let me see. Let me think as far as mine. As far as villains are concerned, I would most likely have to start off with throwing myself off.
Go for Dr. Doom. Do Dr. Doom. You want to do it.
Oh, okay. Venom, Mystique, and I like Carnage too.
You and my son would get along very well. Carnage is one of those characters they brought in there as a pure killing machine like Ultron, except he's organic. And yeah, he's a pretty bad guy. He's kind of single-minded, but he's a pretty good bad guy. I like the Venom, symbiote, also. So yeah, they're like a whole other breed in themselves. There's even a whole side series with the symbionts in it, where they actually made more symbionts too.
I've actually wanted to read that. I haven't got the time yet, but I actually have wanted to read that.
My son's most prized comic book is The Creation of Carnage.
I need to
Carnage
check
first
that out.
appeared. It's a more of a graphic novel style.
Yeah.
But that is one of his most prized comic possessions he owns.
All right, let me ask you this. Who are your three favorite characters or superheroes from the DC universe?
Batman's always going to be my number one because I love the Batman. I've always kind of been interested in the Martian Manhunter.
Mm-hmm.
And who would be my third one? Gosh. There's a lot of characters. I hate to bring up the three. I just hate to throw in all the Justice League characters because there's so many others out there. But
you gotta go with it.
We'll chunk in Wonder Woman for right now.
Okay.
Because there's been several versions of her, but I think that's an interesting background for a character.
When it comes to the superheroes, and this might come from left field, I like Black Canary, Zatanna, Supergirl. Those are my favorite first three.
You said Zatanna?
Yep.
Okay, interesting.
And I'm gonna go ahead and start with the villains. My favorite three are Darkseid, Poison Ivy, and of course Harley Quinn is number one.
Well, I know I'm gonna have Brainiac in there because I kind of like those bad guys, super brains. The Joker has been an interesting character. I don't know if I'd jump on him as one of my primary, but for now, I think he'll be on that list. And man, DC bad guys. Gosh, I like Mr. Freeze. I'm gonna throw in Victor Freeze in there because he's kind of a tragedy in his own self. He's aware of what he does, but he does what he does for a reason. But he's still considered a bad guy. So yeah, I'm gonna throw Mr. Freeze. I'm gonna throw a Slade in there too because I like Slade.
Slade is pretty cool.
Or Deathstroke, as most people know him. But I like Slade Wilson's character. I liked him in the CW, and I did like him in the comic series and the Teen Titans series. And they introduced him in there as well because that's who he was created to fight against anyway. It wasn't necessarily the Green Arrow to begin with. So
yeah. I wanted to ask you something. Also, okay, we know that both Marvel and DC have had reboots. Now, which one do you like better? The Ultimate series, the Ultimate Marvel reboot, or the New 52 DC reboot?
I honestly have not dove too much in either one of the new series. I've only hinkling since we started kind of talking about doing this.
Yeah.
Very, very, very minorly entered the 52 series and seeing what changes they've made in there, and there's a lot to me.
Yes, it is.
So I really can't give you a good valid answer on that right now without really diving into it more. We could say that maybe for one of our other discussions down the road, so I can get some more research time into that and kind of see, because I haven't really bought a comic book in a while, and I know a lot of it's online, but I read a lot, and I get into kind of like starting on one person, and next thing I'm on 15 layers deep. And you're like, well, I just started looking up Batman. That's all I was doing, and now I'm like 15 layers deep on some other weird subject. So, but for now, I honestly can't really give you a good answer on that because I just don't have enough information to really give you a good solid answer on that. I need to process a little bit more before I can do that.
I'm good. I'm game with that. How would you like since you like Batman so much, how would you like our next session to be? Nothing but Batman. Characters, story arcs, villains, what we like about it, what we don't like about it, just straight up Batman.
I love Batman. I'm all for it.
All right, then. I guess we'll just go ahead and end that here, guys. Thank you guys for watching this. And thank you again, Ken, for joining me on this Marvel versus DC discussion.
Oh, I've enjoyed it. It's nice to geek out. I don't get to geek out a lot at home, so unless my son's here visiting or I'm around somebody that just understands the lingo, it's just like I'll just save it for somebody. And then when you get somebody like, and you won't shut up.
You can't stop. Yeah, you can't stop.
You can't stop because you're like, what about this? And what about that? And what about, tonight we've been all over the charts between DC and Marvel, and it's great. It gives a different perspective into everything that we talk about. And we could talk for years and never even put a dent into this world of comics.
Absolutely.
But it's fun. It's enjoyable. We like, give us some feedback on what you think. Subjects in the future, if you like. Leave some comments down there. Definitely leave them on the NarikChase channel here, and we'll look at them and make some changes. Next week we're talking Batman. So if you got some questions, that you want to throw out there, throw them out there. Let's see what we got.
We would definitely like to talk about them. Any subject, go ahead and throw it down there for us to bring on up. Absolutely. And we're gonna try to build this. We're definitely gonna try to build this. Have you still not started up like a Twitter or anything like that?
I haven't. I've got my personal ones, but for the show, I would probably do something not so personal. More geared towards the show. And I really haven't set up any of those feeds yet right now. But that'll be something as we keep going. I mean, I'll check all the YouTube comments. Yeah, leave them on YouTube, and I'll definitely check them as we go. And then a little bit later down the road, I'll set up a combination of Twitter and accounts and everything, so we can get comments and feedbacks and put them on the show. So,
all right, then. Thank you again, Ken, for joining us on this video, and we'll see you guys next week.
Same time, same place.
All right, and hopefully we'll be a bit on time. All right, then.